on this very day in 1977, what was he doing? What was happening on that day? And so I was looking up a little bit and remembering in 1960, 1970, Yamuna, she remembers that Srila Prabhupada, they were driving to a program from Tiddinghurst, and they were some program, I can't remember where they were going, and she was in the van, and Srila Prabhupada turned to her and said that when I leave my body, tell them to take it on the Rickon around the and just out of the blue, Prabhupada is driving really healthy. She couldn't understand. And she said, well, Prabhupada, should I tell someone? Or should I, what do I do? No, you just make sure it happens. And so anyway, she told Malkrishna Maharaj a little later. And they were both very surprised. But this is the first time Srila Prabhupada thought about Guruprasad. This day, just 4 days or 5 days, depending on, we've got a lunar phenomenon this time, so it's 5 days, but normally it's 4 days. This would be the 4th day before we left, 2 days before we're on puja. So that would correspond to those days to the 10th of November. No, the 10th. Today, we're going to the 10th. Except today, there's a lunar phenomenon, therefore his disappearance is the 7th instead of the 6th. But anyway, it was supposed to be 2 days after, it was 2 days after Govardhan Puja. But this year's 3 days. But anyway, I'm just saying, by some calendar phenomenon. So anyway, the point is that on that day, and many times before, starting in September when Srila Prabhupada was in London, he said, if I survive this sickness, he was feeling very, this is the first time he became so weak that he couldn't even walk. He couldn't do anything. He said, I've never felt this weak before in my life. And so he said, if I survive, take me on Guruprasad. So this is like a recurring thing from Srila Prabhupada. And he spoke about it several times. And when he went on Guruprasad, just around the temple, he told the devotees he actually felt good. And the devotees said, now Srila Prabhupada, when you feel better, you can take your medicine and you can eat. He said, no. He said, eating I feel bad. Taking medicine I feel bad. But Guruprasad I feel good. He said, there is no material solution. I've tried, otherwise he felt, I've tried so many doctors, tried so many things. There's no material solution. So Prabhupada, he felt good that he kept taking on Guruprasad every day. And then he said, I want to go on Vrindavan Guruprasad. I just want to go all around and, this is a whole controversy. And this was going on like for a month. This agony and ecstasy. Every time Prabhupada would feel better, there was ecstasy. Every time he would feel worse and say, what is the use of living? What is the use of maintaining his body? And so his argument was, just like Marichi. Marichi said to Ravana, if I stay with you, you will kill me. If I go before Ram, he will kill me. So better I go before Ram. So Prabhupada said the same thing. If I just stay here in this bed, I will die. But I'm feeling miserable. Better I go on Guruprasad. He said, Prabhupada said, one thing I wanted to do all my life was to go, just like Lord Balaram, to go to every holy place in India. So Prabhupada had the idea on actually the 11th, but the idea started on the 10th of September, that I want to go on Guruprasad all over India. This is like, just completely blew out his world. They thought they had gotten the idea out of his head, and then he called Govardhan Maharaj and said, said, bring the bullock cart. He was ready to go. The whole controversy started. Two groups. One said, each one accused that they were killing Prabhupada. No. The group who wanted him to go, he would kill Prabhupada. The group that didn't want him to go would kill Prabhupada if he stayed. He would kill Prabhupada if he goes. So then Prabhupada said, all right, we can go by the car. And he had this whole elaborate plan. There'll be a forward group, and they will scout out the new area, and then the big group will come and have a big festival. And Prabhupada, he couldn't even practically move his hands. He was up making these plans. It was just Prabhupada. Prabhupada was never someone who just laid back. Like 1976 in New York, Prabhupada was coming out of the elevator. And so, I can't remember who it was. One of the devotees said, Prabhupada, you took tired, maybe you should rest. Thinking maybe you should stay here in New York. And of course, that was just an excuse to get him to stay. But Prabhupada said, no, I want to die on the battlefield. And then he walked a little ways, and he said, and you should also die on the battlefield. Not just me. Prabhupada didn't want the Jesus Christ effect. I die and you all live off my laurels. Prabhupada wanted everyone to be Krishna conscious. I just wanted to mention that because just meditating on that today. I remember in one temple, I can't remember, I think it was in Guyana. Every year they do this thing. They read what was happening and what class Prabhupada gave on this Kartik period up to the time of the Guruprasad. A very nice way to remember it. I was just remembering that phenomenon. I didn't have a lot of close association with Srila Prabhupada. Because I was in Latin America. First time I came to Latin America, I wasn't active in Krishna consciousness. That was 1972. I met the devotees in 71. I didn't take it so seriously. Only when I got drafted into the army that I took it seriously. I was in the army in 1975. Srila Prabhupada was coming to Mexico and Caracas. Now at that time there was no internet. It's not like you found out, we went on Facebook and found out Prabhupada was coming. It was like everything was done by letters, which took days or weeks to arrive, especially if you were in South America. And so I got a letter from Guruprasad in Los Angeles, who I was corresponding with. I was in Panama. And he said, Prabhupada will be in Mexico on such and such a day, but by the time I got the letter, it was like the day before he was leaving Mexico. They said, then he's going to Caracas. So I immediately went to the airport. And I thought, I have to meet Prabhupada. This is my opportunity. There was only one flight. There was 2 flights a week. One flight would get there the second day Prabhupada was coming. So I booked the flight. And then they wouldn't give me permission to leave. I said, I don't care. They can arrest me, whatever, I'm going. But then they canceled the flight. And then the next flight was the day he was leaving. So I didn't get that opportunity. So my opportunity was 1976 when in the Mayapur Vrindavan Festival. And I remember we arrived in Mayapur. And of course, first festival was in 74 in Mayapur. That was very austere. Next year was a little better. 76 was a little better because they finished the Lotus Village. And when I got there, I asked where were we staying, and they pointed to the wall, this unfinished brick wall, like one of these brick structures out there. That's where you're staying. So somehow or another, I was lamenting about staying on the wall. I walked into the Lotus Building, and I walked up on the floor where Prabhupada was staying, second floor, and the secretary, Pushpa Krishna, came out and said, does anyone know how to type? I said, I do. And so he said, we need somebody to type. Where are you staying? I said, well, I'm not sure. He said, no, you can stay here. really Krishna's grace. So I was staying out on the balcony, like about 15 yards, 15 meters from Prabhupada's room. And I gave him a little typewriter, some things to type. One of those things was the sannyas mantra for the people who were going to take sannyas. So every day, especially when Srila Prabhupada was taking prasadam, I would go and like sneak up to the window, even though there was a guard. But somehow I had many friends with the guard, because nobody was supposed to be in that area, except people who were invited. I got in somewhere, and I would always watch Srila Prabhupada as he took prasadam. It was such an amazing thing, because to me, prasadam was just, get as much in your mouth as you could, as quickly as possible, as big a quantity. That was my conception. But I saw how Srila Prabhupada, he would take it and he would move it around in his hand, and then he would look at it. At least what I saw him. And then he would pop it into his mouth. And he always would just try to give the right amount of dal and rice, a little bit of chapati, wrap it up, and pop it into his mouth. He would take the sardine, like some of just so graceful, and I saw how he meditated. And then I really, for the first time, I understood what the prayer studied at the Jal meant. It was actually a meditation on prasadam. It wasn't, we just kind of gulped it down and tasted good. And so I just remember that experience just stuck with me. And then I was a little shy, and I was very new, having been, with no temple and everything all this time, and like 2.5 years. So I wanted to see Srila Prabhupada, and I asked Guruprasad Swami at that time if I could see him. Actually, Prabhupada is only speaking to the older devotees and the sannyasis, and so I kind of gave up. But every day I would go and watch. And sometimes we would have a meeting with 2 or 3, senior people. And I observed one thing, because I watched a few of those meetings, and I always noticed that Srila Prabhupada, whenever somebody had accomplished something, they brought in a book that had just been published, or they, I remember when Bhakti Kirtan Maharaj went in, he'd been preaching in communist country. Prabhupada would tell him to sit down, and he would keep him for like 2 hours, an hour, 2 hours, just sitting there. He was so happy when someone would go out and take a risk and do something. And then other devotees was very appreciative, but they would come and give a report and go. But whoever took a risk, Prabhupada would, sit them down and put them there. And then whenever he wanted them to go, he would go like this. He would really go. And one devotee in particular, I remember, he was sitting there and he was flying Prabhupada. And Prabhupada did like 3 times. So you have some service? No. And he understood it. Time to go. Prabhupada was just so amazingly graceful. And of course I did see him on a couple of occasions chastise a few devotees. That was also very interesting. And I was thinking, I don't think I could take that. Prabhupada did that to me. He was, when he chastised someone, he did it very fervently. Lips would quiver, and there's no pardon. So then one day I was sitting there, I was typing one little thing that I was supposed to type. Guruprasad said, "Well, now you can go in and see Prabhupada." I had this whole list of questions, and I'd been making up, before I had gotten there, I'll make up this list of questions. I had like all these questions, I went over them like 20 times. And then I got in the room and I couldn't remember anything. I just sat there. So Prabhupada said, "So, what is your service?" And I said, "Sankirtan Srila Prabhupada." And he said, "So So then you do Sankirtan all your life. And I said, yes, sir. And I couldn't think of anything to say. You devotee, I never. So then Prabhupada. And I knew, and thank you very much. That was my big opportunity. Then after that came our initiation day. And because I had the opportunity to be initiated before, but I wanted to be initiated personally, so I just wanted to wait. And so I remember that, everybody, people went before me, and probably said, what are the 4 regulated principles? And I was so nervous, I'd say that no meeting, no meditation, saying over and over again, no meeting. And then, so the devotee who went before me probably said, what are the 10 offenses? I go, no. 10 offenses. And I came up there, and it was like going, through the portal into the spiritual world. I couldn't remember the 10 offenses. I couldn't remember the 4 regulated principles. I couldn't remember anything. But then Prabhupada I bowed down, and Prabhupada said, so, your name is Guru. I couldn't even hear my name. But he didn't ask me before. I was so happy that he didn't ask me that, because just my mind, when he asked that about the 10 offenses, my mind was totally gone. And then I went out afterwards, and I asked him, what did he say my name was? Finally figured it out. So that was quite a unique experience. Then, after that, my work experience was very nice. Of course, I remember Calcutta. We arrived in the Calcutta temple. It was like 300 devotees. One room, the rafter upstairs for the attic upstairs for the sannyasis, and one room for Prabhupada. And everybody else had to stay on the lake. So I was again lamenting because I was really sick by that time. And some light member came up and said, you'd like to stay with me? And he lived right next to the Bhatt Bazaar temple. So I didn't know that. I heard a kirtan in the morning, so I went over and found the temple. And I went in, I saw this old devotees chanting japa. I went the next day at like 3 in the morning, and there was this man chanting. So the next morning I went and I asked him, so you come every day? He said, yes, I come at 2 o'clock, chant 64 rounds and go to work. And he said, I am godfather of your Guru Maharaj. He said, he is the greatest devotee of all the disciples of Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati.
Who was that devotee?
I don't know. I never even asked him his name. But it was amazing, I see some of the devotees have trouble chanting 16 rounds, and they chanted 64 rounds before going to work. And then so I went to class every day, a couple of days.
Was he dressed in white?
Pardon?
Was he in white or was he in set?
He was in white. He was working, and he was a family man. And he was working. But he was like, maybe 65, something like that. Seemed like 65. Then we came to, of course, Vrindavan. And after Vrindavan, we went to Delhi. And in Delhi, I remember one day after Prasad, Srila Prabhupada was up on the balcony. He was chanting up on the balcony. And we were taking Prasad. So we finished Prasad, and everybody, not everybody, but a few of us had some leftover on our plates. And these cows came over to stuck their head over the wall. So we came over and we gave them our plates. And then Prabhupada called us up. And he said, he called a few of us up. He said, you do not give your remnants to the mother. He said, first you give to the cow, then you take the remnants. Cow is your mother. So that was my first chastisement. Actually, it wasn't my first chastisement. My first chastisement of two was a famous incident here in Vrindavan when we went to Radha. And of course, I didn't know anything. And all of a sudden, devotee, I did hear that you weren't supposed to get in. But then all these older devotees started jumping in and having, horse fights or jumping on each other's shoulders and fighting and splashing. So I thought, well, yeah, I guess that's what you're supposed to do. That's a good lesson why we should always conform with Guru Shastra side. And so anyway, then that evening, there was an announcement. Anyone who went to Radha and went in, bathed in Radha Prabhupada wants to see you immediately. So we went to Srila Prabhupada's room. And Prabhupada, did he chastise us? I mean, it wasn't directed to me. And of course I felt innocent because I felt like I was just, but he said so heavy. He said, kicking in Radha is kicking Srimati Radharani in the face. He said, you cannot imagine what your destiny will be. And he went on, like 10 minutes, saying all these heavy things. And then we all thought, we're finished. There's no hell, deep enough for us. And then Prabhupada afterwards he smiled, he said, so you should not ever go in Radha again. Then Srimati Radharani will forgive you. And we said, that was my experience with chastisement. Then the last thing I remember that a person participated in was, we went to one program at one life event, I guess it was a life event. So after the program, Srila Prabhupada went out. He wanted to show something out in the back. Prabhupada went out and there was a sink and water was dripping. And Prabhupada said, told one devotee to turn it off. I was standing very close to Prabhupada so I could hear what he was saying. And the devotee went over and tried to, it was an old faucet, wouldn't turn off. And Prabhupada said, well, anyway, Srila Prabhupada, it's not our house. And Prabhupada said, not our, everything belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. And I remember when I went into Srila Prabhupada's room, and many people have seen this, when he would write, like, use a piece of paper until practically every inch of it was gone. And I could just see how probably even a few drops of water dripping, Srila Prabhupada was thinking, this is Krishna's energy being wasted. I also remember, I didn't experience this, but just the same thing. Srila Prabhupada was showing one life member in his room the pictures of all the different temples. He was saying, this is our temple in Detroit, this is our temple here, this is our temple there. And then he turned to one page, it was a German castle, Slav. And Prabhupada said, this is our temple in Germany. And Hari Shori said, well, Srila Prabhupada, that's not ours. We're renting it. And Prabhupada said, renting, buying, it all belongs to Krishna. It is ours. We're using it for Krishna. It doesn't matter renting, buying, whatever. You buy it, you rent it, it's all material energy, it will dissolve. So he understood it. You don't try to correct Srila Prabhupada. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said that before Prabhupada came to the U.S., he was going to go to Trinidad. He was actually thinking, I'll go to Trinidad because there's Indians there. And then in Trinidad, I'll make some headway, and then from there I can go to the U.S. So Prabhupada had written some letters to some men there. So when Chittakananda Prabhu went to Trinidad, he met one gentleman. He said, I corresponded with your guru. I have letters. So he brought Chittakananda Prabhu to his house and showed him the letter. So Chittakananda, next time he saw Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, I heard this. You were going to go to Trinidad. Prabhupada said, yes, that was my plan. He said, but I could see they wanted to control me. And Prabhupada said, no one can control me, only Krishna. And then Prabhupada said, and no one can control Krishna, only Srimati Radharani. So, Prabhupada always said it, and that same occasion he said, among my friends, I was always the leader. So Prabhupada always had that position of being, the head person. So, I don't know how, I guess my time is probably up.
We have a few speakers.
Yeah.
Two left over from yesterday.
Oh, so I should stop. Yeah.
You have how much more is that?
No, I was just gonna relate one incident that happened in Mexico. And I wasn't there, but it's so nice, It's so nice. When Srila Prabhupada the first time he came to Mexico in 1972, so the devotees, Chittagananda, who was temple president, he was, really young, enthusiastic devotee. So Prabhupada arrived with the secretary and the servant. There was no one in the airport. Prabhupada looked around, said the secretary looking around. They were asking for Swami people like this, dressed like this. Nobody was there. So Prabhupada sat down in the suitcase and was chanting japa for 1 hour. And then finally this man, this lawyer and his wife came over and said, oh, you're Swami, we go to the Hare Krishna, we go there. And so I know that they're supposed to be coming here. They're making such a beautiful arrangement. They have a car decorated with flowers. Big car decorated with flowers. Prabhupada said, what is the use of a big car if they're not here? And so anyway, so they said, we can take it. So they had this little tiny car, little tiny red Volkswagen car. So they put Srila Prabhupada, all of his luggage on top of the secretary and servant. Prabhupada even had to have something on top of his lap. They all squeeze into this little Volkswagen and go to the temple. And Prabhupada arrives at the temple, and they had somebody looking for the big car, but because this little Volkswagen drove up, nobody noticed. Prabhupada got out, walked into the kitchen. There's like one devotee cooking, and nobody knows that Srila Prabhupada was here in the temple. And then the devotee goes around. And he just dropped the spoon and the ghee splattered on him. Now Prabhupada from the devotee, Prabhupada's here, and devotees really spaced out. But then Prabhupada, when he came into the temple, they had made this flower rendition of Radha Krishna with the Mahamantra. And so Prabhupada said, just like India, they were very artistic, so Prabhupada was very happy to see how the devotees had prepared for him. And anyway, everything was pretty spaced out. I just thought that was very funny how Prabhupada said, what is the use of a big car if they're not here? Prabhupada was always so practical. Anyway, so I'll stop here and let the other devotees who are speaking, let them speak now. Thank you all very much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much to Guruprasad for his wonderful recollections of Prabhupada.